Hello, this is going to be a introduction to modern bamboo fly rods. And by modern, I mean bamboo fly rods that are being made today versus the old traditional bamboo fly rods of yesteryear. For example, this is an E.C. Powell, which is a very famous rod maker, but they used varnish. And they cast okay, but they don't cast as well as the modern bamboo. Here's an old Orvis. Again, it's varnished. And that is the classic old fly rod. People always think, oh, bamboo, that's slow and, like a noodle, and it's not going to cast very well. Well, today, everything has changed. There's a lot of modern technology, especially in the area of adhesives, come a long ways. They were using hide glue back in the day, which was kind of soft. Today's modern adhesives are much stronger, make the rod stiffer and faster, and the techniques we use in terms of heat treating and the hardware, everything's improved. So let me go through let me start from the beginning and show you what the process is, or briefly describe the process. The entire process starts with a culm of Tonkin cane. And there are many, many species of bamboo, but Tonkin is the one and only that is suitable for fly rods. And these are imported, selected, and, carefully chosen to be perfect for fly rods. And you'll notice there's these nodes. Those are the leaf nodes where the plant grew. So the first step is we split this down, split it into strips. And there's many different ways of doing that, but the most common way is to just use a knife or a hatchet. Sometimes they'll go, old school and use a hatchet and split it down. A lot of different ways of doing it. So then you end up with a whole bunch of strips like this, and you'll see there's a pith, soft area inside, and a very, very hard surface on the outside. That outside surface is called an enamel, and just beneath the enamel, in that darker area, is what's called the power fibers. That's the strong, stiffest part of the bamboo. That's what we want to use when we're going to take all the pith off and only use the power fibers in the actual fly rod. So we take that and we split it down farther, and we come up with strips of this size. And as you'll notice, we're starting to form a triangle. It's a 60-degree equilateral triangle. So 6 of these makes 360 degrees. You'll notice that these are dark on the outside. And the reason for that is they've been flamed with a large, like a torch, almost like what you'd use to burn weeds in your yard. And that's carefully, evenly applied across the whole surface while the enamel's on there, which protects the power fibers. That adds a nice, deep, rich color. You can see the difference between this fly rod that is just blonde. It's been heat treated, but it's basically blonde. And then this darker one in my left hand, which was flamed. It's just personal preference. There really isn't any difference in the finished product. So once it gets down to this step, we then have to deal with the nodes. And the nodes get filed off initially and then pressed to the perfect, to keep the grain in line rather than just, sawing it all off. That could, cut through some of the power fibers. These are actually carefully pressed into alignment, keeping the grain and everything. So that's an important step. After that, they get glued and bound together. And in a 6-strip configuration, you're going to have 6 strips. I first will dry bind that and check the fit to make sure there's no glue lines or any spots that don't look absolutely perfect. So then once that gets, the binding string gets stripped off, the glue gets applied, and it gets rebound gets set aside for 24 hours, and then it comes off. All of that glue and string has to get scraped and sanded down. Obviously, again, protecting the power fibers. So that's the basic rod blank made out of bamboo. And now let me get into some of the hardware options. So you have a rod blank, which is this, which is just the bamboo, and then you put the ferrules on. Ferrules, there's a lot of different options on ferrules. Let me briefly go into that. I use a guy up in Vermont. His father-in-law, Bailey Woods, started the company way back, and they supply these nickel silver ferrules to 90% of the rod makers in the world. His Bailey died. His son-in-law, Steve Monroe, took over the business. I've been dealing with him for quite a while. I have a good relationship. We can make long, larger ferrules, smaller ones, truncated being lighter and shorter and, maybe more pleasing to the eye. There's a version of a ferrule called a step-down ferrule, which this one is. It makes a cleaner transition. It's not as bulky as what is called a Super Z, which would be this one. But this is probably, theoretically, a little stronger, but I don't think I've ever heard of a ferrule being a weak point. So there's the ferrules, and then you have reel seat options. This is a very plain cedar strip sliding ring reel seat, as opposed to this one, which is a little bit fancier. This insert, they call, will be I will be turning this kind of darker, fancier wood down to become the real in-seat. And then when that gets polished, it'll be absolutely gorgeous. And you can use any type of wood. This is like a bird's eye maple, I guess. So many options on that area. We're experimenting with even going into some different types of bone and different stones and gems and all kinds of different things that Lisa will be working on. So different styles of reel seats, sliding ring, up locking, down locking, you name it. We can do anything. Then you get into wraps, the colors of wraps, the amount of wraps. These all can be customized in stripping guides. Here's just a plain metal stripping guide. This one's an agate stripping guide. Gets a little bit fancier. All kinds of areas, all kinds of different options on that. The grip, we use individual rings of Portuguese cork. These, again, are select. I actually like them that have a little bit of character to it. As you'll notice, this one, so I made this rod for myself. I wanted to have that. If you think about a shotgun, you want walnut that has grain and character. You don't want it to be just straight grain. So I think the same thing applies to cork, even though technically speaking, that's a lesser grade. This is, I think, a little bit better grade on this one. So again, personal choice, personal preference. Guides, in addition to the stripping guide, you get to choose what kind of wire guides. You can have silver and heavier traditional ones. You can have really light, fine wire, either in silver or black like this one. Some people feel that is more stealthy. You don't get any shine when you're casting over the pool. Rod cases. The traditional aluminum. This is an Orvis case from way back. We can make them look just like that, which is this version. It's a newer version of it. We can also do that in black, either with a brass fitting or a silver or aluminum fitting on the end. There's even a more fancy, I guess. This again could be black. It could be polished, or it could be like a bead blast. These end caps, again, I think they're a little bit fancier than those old classic ones, but maybe you like the classic. This can be embellished with engraving, inlays, all kinds of things. And Lisa's going to do a section on the different types of embezzlements. Embezzlements. We're going to embezzle the fly rod. Embellishments. All right, that's it.